Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to episode number 94 of the WP Café show with me, Mark Wilkinson, and my co-host here, Keith Devon. Thank you very much for joining us live if you are on YouTube, if you're listening later on in the future in the podcast, then thanks for that as well. This is the show where we chat about all things WordPress, running our agency, Highrise Digital, building our products, Job Relay and RecPress, and anything WordPress in between. So if that sounds like your type of thing, please consider subscribing to the channel, hitting the notification bell, and if you like this video, it would be nice to have a like from you as well. Lots to talk about today. And first of all, how are you, Keith? How's your week?
Very well, thank you. Week has been okay. Done a couple of new RecPress builds, which has been good. Although I'm itching to get onto our new version, so I need to pull my finger out and get that new version ready because I keep building them on the old version, which is fine because it works well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to try out our new version of RecPress soon.
Yeah, that'd be good. Definitely be good.
Yeah, so that's been good. Bit of design kind of progress, and I guess we're kind of providing some consultancy on the design phase of the school website that we're building. So that's been kind of interesting to view that process slightly detached from being a designer. So that's been good seeing that coming together. And yeah, got a long lost cousin coming over from Canada today to stay for the weekend. So I'm looking forward to seeing her. Haven't seen her in, I don't know, 14 years or something. So she's coming to stay for the weekend. So yeah.
Very
excited
good.
For that. How about you? How's your week been?
Yeah, it's been good. I've been starting this build, which is going to be our first topic. So I'll come into that in a second, getting stuck in with that. Lots of Job Relay stuff, changes to the LinkedIn Open Graph images that have kind of hit us with our sort of image generation service that we have for Job Relay. So
yeah.
Kind of did a funky little solution this morning that kind of like doesn't solve the problem, because ultimately we can't solve the problem in that LinkedIn and like showing images really small now unless you pay for it. But it kind of does as a bit of an alternative for people. So yeah, it's been plodding along this week. It's been all right. So yeah. So on the topic for this week, we've got starting our FSE build, full site editing build. We've got bit of discussion around editing websites for clients. Should they be allowed to do that? And meetup news and discussion as well to have a chat about.
Controversy.
Yeah, a little bit. We'll see. So if you haven't already said hello in the chat, please do so. Hi to Paul, Courtney, Tony. He's back. Where have you been, Tony? And also Nick. So thank you for joining us. So let's get into this full site editing build. So well, do you want to give a little story about the designy stuff that you've been doing, and then I'll talk about what I've kind of done to sort of set up the project from a
Well, for me so far it's been a bit strange because I think we discussed it in the previous episode. We quoted for the design and build of a website, and at the last minute the client changed design agency. So, and I think it was primarily because they didn't like the direction of the branding of the previous agency or something. We didn't get the ins and outs of why, which was fine. But this new agency pitched to actually do the web design as well. So we were kind of like, okay, well, are kind of hands off now. But that put us in an interesting position because we'd quoted for the thing as a whole, we were going to have control over the design, which meant that we couldn't let the development kind of get away from us and all that kind of stuff. But now the design is in the hands of this other agency who have been really good. And they've been going through a wireframing process, which I always find really interesting because we'd actually said on this project, controversially, potentially, that we weren't going to do any wireframing. I think it raised a few eyebrows. But the logic behind that basically is that we're going to be building these blocks. So you're going to be able to change the layout and structure of a page, and we can add new things kind of as we go. And we've built enough sites now to know what makes a website in terms of like what you need to make it navigable and accessible and usable. And like, I don't think that anything crazy is going to come out of a wireframing stage that just like, oh my God, we never thought about that thing. You know, it's all pretty standard these days. So anyway, we're going through that process. And I keep getting asked like, is this in scope? Is that in scope? I'm like, I kind of don't know because I haven't seen the designs yet. Like I haven't seen the final designs. So, you know, this extra thing that we haven't quoted for might be in scope, but it might not be if the design you come up with is fantastical with all this stuff moving around and like, you know, so there's that. So at the minute, basically there's an XD, a couple of XD files, one for desktop, one for mobile. The client's commenting on it. They're asking us for feedback on it. So we're just kind of going through that process. But I think it looks like the wireframes are pretty much agreed on now. We'll see how set in stone they actually stay. But it's been interesting to see how the design agency are handling it. They're very experienced, I think, and upfront about the fact that after this stage, changes are quotable. They've said that a few times in their emails and stuff. So they're not like, they're not hiding that. They're not afraid to say it. It's like, you know, once we've agreed these wireframes and we move forward to the kind of high fidelity designs, you know, if you change your mind on anything, we're going to charge you. So
it's been a good process, though. I think they've done it quite quick as well, but thorough.
The thing is, it's kind of easy though.
Yeah,
right. Like
I think you're right. When you're building flexible designs with the block editor, do you need a wireframing process? I don't know.
I would like. I think I said this to the client before. In an ideal world, we would do it. I think it's the right thing to do. But initially, we had a very, very tight design and development window of like 6 weeks. It was like, we're just going to have to crack on and we'll fix things as we go and we'll change things as we go. Like that was how we kind of structured it. But yeah, I mean, this is the better. I think this is a better way to do things, and it kind of avoids nasty surprises later on.
So I think they're signed off now, aren't they? Those wireframes. So I guess
I don't know if they're officially, but I think they're pretty close.
The last email was kind of like we're done sort of email, like they're finished, and I think it's just whether someone comes back and disagrees with that more or anything, and then the next part of that project is then they're going to do some designs based off of those wireframes. There's kind of like 5 or 6 templates that they're going to sort of design, and they're going to be building block modules essentially that are going to put on those pages, and then we're going to turn those into separate block modules, and we're going to build on those as well, aren't we? Because it's going to be more to the project than what they've designed, which we knew about, which is fine. So that'll be exciting to see it come to life, come to more of something that you can visually see and see what it's going to look like.
I really hope the designs are good, because you know I was obviously like looking forward to getting stuck into this design project, and like getting back into that side of things. I had some ideas, so I hope the designs are good. Obviously, you can't tell from wireframes what the quality of the design is going to be like, but
the sample websites that they've sort of sent across, like, oh, we like this and we like this and we like this. I think they've got some really nice design features in them. Some are probably a bit beyond the development scope of the project. And we've kind of said that during this stage. So, but I think we've all understood where we are. So hopefully that'll be good.
Yeah, I just hope there's something we could. I want something to get stuck into, you know, really like, oh, that's a challenge. Like, how are we going to make that work? And not too much of that, but a little bit of it would be really nice. Yeah.
Cool. So while you've been doing that, I've been sort of starting to set up the site structure and getting the sort of, made a very basic start on the theme. And very basic start on some of the sort of setup. So what that entailed was getting a server set up for doing a staging site on. So we had to set up the DNS for that, point that to the server, get WordPress installed. We use SpinUp WP, so that was all done on there, really straightforward. And then I've started to sort of get the theme started, which is the first one I've looked at really in terms of full site editing. And I'll just kind of talk you through what I've done. I'm not saying this is finished by any means, but I'll talk you through sort of what I've done. I've got the code up in front of me and sort of like looking through the things that I've done. So the first thing I did was remove the block directory. So if you don't know, when you search for a block, it kind of searches. I presume it's WordPress.org, searching for block plugins for the thing you searched for, which we don't want. Obviously, we don't want the client adding blocks and plugins and things. So I've got rid of that. There's a nice little filter action you can remove. I've also removed the the remote block patterns. Does the same things when you search for a block pattern. So if you search for like a hero block pattern, it'll search the WordPress.org pattern repository. So that's a filter that you can remove. Remove the core block patterns. Didn't even know core came with patterns. Seems really strange to me, seeing as a theme probably provides the patterns. We've had that discussion before, though. Anyway, core provides a set of patterns. So I've got rid of those. So when you go to patterns, you click the plus button to add something, you go to patterns. At the moment, there's nothing there because obviously we haven't created any patterns at this point. I've then created a function to disallow blocks that we don't need or don't use or never going to use. If you're interested in what they are, my current list is verse pre-formatted, code calendar archives, latest comments, latest posts, page list, RSS, tag cloud, more, read more. Didn't know there was two of those. And next page, which is like if you've paginated a post into different pages. That's the block that allows you to go from page to page. So that's what I've got rid of. And again, there's a filter for that. Allowed block types, all you can use to.
Do we not potentially? Would we not potentially be using the pagination kind of blocks on archive pages or anything?
That's different.
Ah, okay.
You can split any post into multiple pages.
Right. Okay.
It's used for like hacky SEO things, isn't it? Where you've got like caught this. I don't know. I can't imagine a scenario where you want to do that, but
in all our years, I don't think we've ever done it.
No, but anyway, there's a block for it, so I've got rid of it.
Yeah.
So that's that one, and then finally, I've removed the open verse media thing, which is a bit like finding images from Unsplash, but this is from Openverse, which I'm not exactly sure what it is. But when you go into the plus symbol and click media, you've got this option to search Openverse for media, which I don't think we want to go down that road with this client. So got rid of that. So it just at the moment says no media because I haven't uploaded anything. So that's all nice and sorted out. Then I have enqueued a JavaScript file. Let me just confirm to you what that was on. I've enqueued that on enqueue block editor assets. Just a JavaScript file to kind of do some more editor manipulation, changes, creation. So I've got rid in that file. I've got rid of the embed variations for all of the services that the client will have never heard of and never used, just to make it so it's a bit less confusing in the back end. There's a whole list of them that they're not going to be using, so I've got rid of those. And I have unregistered the core block styles that come with WordPress for images. Comes with like a default and a rounded style. Buttons comes with a fill and an outline. And tables comes with regular and stripes for some reason, does the core. So I got rid of them. I can't find any other blocks that have block styles out of the box. Maybe I've missed some, but that's what I found and that's what I've removed. So none of the block styles are loading from core. We'll obviously create our own. So that should be good. And then I have created, just really to sort of test to see how this works and so on, I've created block styles for buttons. I've created a primary and a secondary style. I don't know what we'll need yet. We might need more than that. We might need to rename them to different things than that. But just to get it working, I've created the block styles for those, which is, again, using a PHP and using a filter. And then I've also enqueued a style sheet for any block that has a block style so that you can style it. Because the next thing I'm going to go on to is I have used theme.json to remove all of the design aspects or features of the button block so that the customer can't, for example, set the padding, they can't choose a background color, etc., because we want to provide them with a style, choose between a primary, a secondary, whatever button, rather than going rogue and going on their own sort of system. So that's that bit done. That was a very long-winded process. So in just a bit of context, in theme.json, there appears to be a setting called appearance tools, and you can set that to true or false. And that's kind of a wrapper for activating or deactivating a load of other things. Like it turns on border, color, shadow, spacing, typography for blocks that support those different attributes. I don't know what we call them, things anyway. So you can just set that to true or false. So if I set that to false as a global level, any blocks that supported those wouldn't have them because I've set it to false. Obviously, I don't want that. I want that to be true because I do want some blocks to have some, well, probably want some blocks to have some design decisions. We're not actually sure yet. So, but then you can go into individual blocks and you can start customizing them. So you could say, well, actually, we want all of those design things globally, but just for buttons, we don't want them to change the color, so we can turn that off. Yeah. So you go into them and you've got to set these individually for each block. So I've gone in like core button, border, color false, radius false, width false, style false, and then you've got to do that for color and shadow. Anyway, so got to the stage where I've now got a button block that I can, when I add a button block on the screen, all I've got on the right-hand side is choose a style. So between my primary and secondary, obviously there might be more there. I've got the advanced little panel, so you can put like a class in if you need to, and an anchor. And I've still got the width. You can choose a button width, like percentage width. I can't get rid of that. I don't have to get rid of it. So,
and we tested yesterday, didn't we, that we can add individual things back in. So I think we're going to add background color back in, for example, as an option.
So and maybe you want like font size, possibly. I don't know. It depends.
Yeah, I don't think so. Doesn't it? But, yeah. I don't think. So, Mark, my question for you is, how did you make the decision to turn stuff off? Like what? So things like the block library, the pattern library, Openverse. Why turn them off? Like, what was your thought behind that?
So the block library and the pattern library. I think the block library is, I suppose it's linked to the pattern library as well. Do we want our client going in and saying, oh, that looks like a great hero, I'll just add that, and it's some pattern from WordPress.org? It's probably not going to be styled. I mean, it might come with styles, editor styles that someone's used, but are they going to work in our context and our theme? So that and blocks, I just think it confuses everybody. So why have that confusion? You know, we've, you know, your website is going to be optimized for these blocks, the ones that I've allowed or not disallowed, on any patterns that we create. So I think that makes sense in that. The Openverse thing, I'm not sure, because I'm not actually sure what it actually is. It just like an image library where I can just search images? But just seemed, again, you know, I'm just going to get questions from the client. What's Openverse? What is it? Why is it there? And it was like, well, it's not there anymore. So, you know, you upload your images that you want to use, and it's dead simple. That was my thinking. We can always put them back. Put them back. They're still there. They're easy to turn back on or turn back off if it's necessary.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That's fair enough.
So yeah, that was one block I've done now. So we've got lots to go. But yeah, that's well, I've made progress, put it that way, and learned some stuff, which is nice, which is good. Elliot just asking here, where's it gone? So Elliot said, Mark, did you get the auto suggest working in VS Code? So working with theme.json is painful. I'm sure it'll get easier once you start getting used to working with it. But it's kind of like, you know, just imagine a massive PHP array. You've just got to deal with it all the time. You're looking in it, you're trying to find stuff in it and so on. And it's a bit similar. So your code editor, I use VS Code. I think you use VS Code, don't you? Has different things to help you with that. So it has like a breadcrumb across the top so you can see which section you're actually currently inside of. And it also has an auto suggest. So if I, you know, go onto a new line and then start typing like speech mark, and then it'll suggest the things that I'm allowed to put there, because, and it knows that because you've put the schema at the top. So the schema tells the editor what you can and can't put in the different places. And that wasn't working, essentially. So I was asking on Twitter, does anybody know why that's not working? And Elliot was kind enough to jump in and give me some suggestions. And the answer to your question, Elliot, is it is working, and I have no idea why it started working. It's the answer to that question. It just suddenly seemed to decide it was working. One thing that I did notice in the corner, but this was after it started working, is I got a triangle explanation with an exclamation mark in, and it said unable to validate schema. But it was working at this point. which is weird.
Right.
So I don't know if that had anything to do with it. So I clicked it and then it just went away, like it validated it. I don't know what it meant. So anyway, it's working now and I'm getting suggestions, which is good.
It's good. There's a few more questions for you.
Go for it.
Sam asked, did you use the Create Block Theme plugin as a starting point?
I didn't. I possibly should have. I don't know what that would have given me.
Yeah.
Good question. I didn't know.
What have you done? Have you started a theme from absolute scratch?
Yes, just started from scratch. I was going into like 2024 just to look at like how they structure it and stuff, and then. But yeah, just started from scratch. It's a good question. Maybe I should have done that. Maybe that was a better idea. But I don't know what I'm missing, having not used it.
Yeah, and there's obviously some other boilerplate themes out there as well that I guess we could use. But I think it sort of makes sense for us to know what's going on. You know, especially the first time we're doing this, like rather than just using someone else's code and then wondering why this thing's hidden or that thing's hidden. At least we'll be the ones hiding it.
Yeah, you'll know from the start. That's what we did.
Yeah. So you've got context. So yeah, that's good. And then Elliot says, why not remove the cap by the rule? So remove cap, install plugins, etc. User can't install any plugins. Don't know. What is that? Oh, would that prevent them installing blocks then?
I don't know. Would that prevent them from seeing those suggestions of blocks? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So good question, actually. So the context of all this was that I was partly using that article we mentioned in last week's episode, 15 ways to create the editor. And this was one of the things that they suggested that you could do. So I just went with what that suggested in the article rather than another method of doing it. You know, maybe if I take away the install plugins from specific roles, that would disappear as well. I don't know. But yeah, that was just my reasoning. So it's good.
Courtney asks, thank you for the questions, by the way. Including research time, how long did it take to get to this blank starting point? Sounds like a lot more work than before FSE. So
from when I started on, I don't know what day it was. When did I do this? It wasn't yesterday. It must have been Wednesday afternoon, I think it was. It's kind of first job after lunch. And then I had, where I've got to now was kind of like probably into the evening. So probably 6 hours or so. But a lot of that's learning.
And a lot of it is potentially reusable.
Yeah, definitely. Once you've learned this stuff, it's definitely going to help. So no, I didn't come away from it thinking, oh my God, that took ages. This is ridiculous. I just came away thinking, well, I've learned a lot of stuff now and I know how to do that. So next time I want to do it, it's dead quick. Yeah.
Very good. Another comment from Elliot. If you use the Create Block Theme plugin, you can use the global styles, make changes, etc., then save back all the changes to your theme rather than the database. So global styles.
So my question, I can't do what I've done in global styles, I don't think. I can't go into global styles in the site editor and then say button blocks don't get color, spacing, shadow. From my understanding, I don't think you can do that. I can set the colors, set the shadow options, set the spacing rules, but I can't turn them off, I don't think.
But the setting those colors and spacing rules, etc., might be very useful for the next phase of this.
Correct.
Where I start, if I'm working locally, for instance, and I start making those kinds of changes, and then we can save them back to the theme. I haven't worked in that way before, so I'm not exactly sure.
Presumably, we can still do that,
how
though.
That's going to work.
Using the Create Block Theme plugin, we can now go ahead, do the global styles, and then say,
I would assume
back
so.
to the active theme. I presume that's how it works.
Yeah. Something to play with going forward. Yep, very good.
Yeah.
Like it. So a bit of progress. What were you getting there was something you were getting frustrated at on Twitter X about working with the theme JSON file. You couldn't get something working. Have you already covered that?
I've covered the JSON bit, theme JSON, working with that in the editor.
I thought there was a specific little challenge.
Removing the width settings for the button.
Yeah,
I haven't got rid of that. I don't know how to do that. So that's available. Doesn't seem to be an option in theme JSON. So I don't know if that's just not possible or, whatever. Anyway, But yeah, so we'll keep going with new blocks and new things and report back, no doubt.
Yeah, exactly.
In the coming weeks, coming days.
Yeah, very good. Well, it kind of brings us sort of onto our next topic, because we were talking about things there about removing the ability to edit some things and add some things on a client's website. If you take that thought to one extreme, you might agree with Kevin Geary, who tweeted this week. I won't read the whole tweet because it's massive. I didn't realize you could even write tweets this long. And post, whatever, X, whatever. But I'll read the very first part. There's an epidemic of people caring deeply about how easy it is for clients to edit their own website. In most cases, clients should not be editing their own site. They're not qualified to do so, nor is it the best use of their time. And it goes on. He makes a pretty compelling argument about all the ways, not all the ways, some of the ways that clients can make a mess of their own websites. So they've invested a lot of money in this website as a tool, marketing tool or whatever, and then they get unleashed on it as an editor or an admin, and it all goes to hell. What are your initial thoughts on that, Mark?
I agree with some of what he's saying, but I don't think I fundamentally agree with what he's saying. So he uses an example in the tweet, which kind of says, let's say the client goes and changes the hero text on the homepage, and then he gives a list of like all the knock-on effects that's done.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I just think, even if the agency changed the text, like some of that's just trial and error. Like you don't know all those effects until you've tried something. So I'm not so sure about that. I think he makes, if you take his points, things like, being able to just edit URLs, maybe you could argue, well, that's dangerous, isn't it? Because, you need redirects in place, but actually people can do that in a way, unless you set the right sort of levels of roles and things. So I think his points are valid for certain things, but I think certainly for content editing, no, I think people want to write content themselves. They don't want to be sending that over to someone or whatever. Most of the clients that we have.
Yeah, exactly. And that, our opinions are biased based on the experience we've had and the kind of service that we offer and the clients that kind of service attracts. People come to us wanting websites where they have pretty much full control. They specifically ask for that. So if it wouldn't work for us to say, actually, no, we're not going to let you do anything on your site. Everything has to come through us and we're going to charge you for it.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they're trying to get away from. And exactly, I think why WordPress is an easy sell for so many people is because you can edit all your own content and you have that ownership and you're not gate kept.
And I think he uses the example of like the marketing person at Apple, do they get control of the sales page for an iPhone and to change bits and bobs? And well, no, but I think that's very different to working with the clients.
I would argue that they probably do, because they're qualified marketing people rather than the person that built the website. So, some of our clients are more qualified than us to make those decisions because they are marketing people and they understand PPC and they understand the campaigns and they might even be better at SEO than us. So actually some of our clients, I would say, can make more educated decisions on some of that stuff than we can. There's always areas like you design pages and you design blocks to be used in a certain way, and the design kind of system fits together in a certain way, and they have the ability to change the font size, and suddenly that heading style that looks perfect when it's at the small font size looks terrible when it's at the large font size. Stuff like that is where I would like to step in more. But I think as there's a lot of very opinionated content online, obviously, and I just think there's so many different types of website, types of business, type of agencies. You can't just blanket say this is the way or this is not the way. Like I agree. I think I was going to say in an ideal world, I would kind of work like the way Kevin's suggesting, but I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure I would. Not even sure I
No.
would, because I don't really want to be adding content to my clients' websites. But maybe
He's got like
I wouldn't personally be doing it. You'd hire someone else to do it. But then, how qualified are they? So if I employ a junior copywriter or a junior webmaster, and they can go and add content to my clients' websites, are they qualified enough to make all those decisions and not make all those mistakes? Like, who's this magical person? Like, does everything in Kevin's business go through Kevin? Like, because he's the oracle of, I don't know. Like, I don't.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Practically, I don't understand how that works. But I just thought it was interesting. Like, I was kind of nodding along, but by the end, I was just like,
no,
it doesn't. It doesn't work.
Like I said, I think
if it works for him, that's great.
Absolutely, I think some of his points are valid. Like I said, if you've got the ability to change things that will easily break things, then yeah, I think there's a very valid argument to say, well, they shouldn't be able to change that. But to not be able to change anything, I just think that can't be right. Certainly for our clients, it can't be right. Anything like that. So
yeah,
hey ho, we'll see.
Yeah, it depends. It depends, doesn't it? So
yeah, it does, and I think Peter Ingersoll, is it? Sorry, you got your name wrong. He might be watching. Sometimes he's watching. He always says, there's so many different ways to do things, and there's so many different solutions, and no one of them is right, and no one of them is wrong. It's what's right for you, for your client, for that project. Exactly. So just because someone says something else doesn't mean to say that it's appropriate for your situation at that point in time. Yeah. And that's the beauty of WordPress, isn't it? There's so many ways to do things. Find the way that works for you, for your client, for your project, so everyone's happy.
Exactly. We're always on that journey of discovering that perfect place. Yeah.
Will we ever get there? Who knows? We'll see.
Nah.
So last but not least, meetups. I saw this morning, apparently there is a new meetup in London, which has been named the London WordPress Meetup, having already had the WordPress London Meetup, which I just found utterly bizarre. So the backstory for this is you started the WordPress London Meetup, God knows when. You'll be able to tell me, no doubt.
I can't tell you. It was a long time ago.
A long time ago. And that has been going in that form up until the present day. It's currently kind of, is run the right word, but run by Dan Maybe and Paul Smart, I think.
Yep.
I think. And Diane used to be, I don't know whether Diane's still in it anymore. Anyway, there's a few.
Yeah, I'm not sure who the leadership group is exactly. Yeah.
Lots of members running monthly events, really started again towards the start of this year, and they've carried on going with it. But it is not what we might call an official WordPress Foundation meetup. So it's not part of, I don't know what they call it, but it's not part of that sort of group, which means various things. There's no funding for it from that stream. It doesn't get in like the events thing on the WordPress dashboard because it's not an official one, if that makes sense. But the benefits are they sit outside that framework, so they've got more flexibility and so forth. So apparently someone has suggested that they wanted to run a meetup. They've got in touch with the foundation, and basically that after a while that's gone through, and it's got like almost the same name. And then bizarrely now it has official in brackets next to it as well, which has rightly so, in my opinion, upset some of the the people that are running and spending time and effort running the current WordPress London meetup. So just seems a very, very bizarre decision to me as to why that's been allowed to happen. I no problem with people running more new meetups. I don't think the current WPLDN team have got any issues with that. It's just, why would you name it that sort of same name? Just seems utterly bizarre. But what are your thoughts anyway, seeing as it was your baby to start with?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's been so long since I ran WordPress London that I've let it go, I've let it fly, and I don't feel, not that I don't feel a connection with it, I do, but like it's not, I don't worry about it like anymore. But I have mixed feelings. I think that potentially another meetup is a good thing. More people getting together, talking about WordPress. If there's a market for it, then great. If people are attending, then great. If it's offering something different, then especially great. So this one, I've just noticed, Mark, since we looked this morning,
Yeah.
there is now an actual event listed on their page.
Okay.
And it's an all day thing.
All right.
So it starts at 10 a.m., finishes at 3:15. So it's different. It's not an evening, beers, pizza, couple of talks kind of thing. So it is different. It's more like a mini conference almost, but I think there's actually,
and it's in person.
It's in person. It seems to be pitched as like a co-working thing. So like come together, share a space, do a bit of networking in between, have a couple of kind of focused chats. I actually think it sounds great. It's the sort of thing, if I was living in London, I would go to.
Okay.
So from that point of view, really kind of happy that it's there. The naming of it does feel aggressive, or I don't know. It feels like it could, the meetup group could have been named differently. I don't really love London WordPress meetup official.
Yeah, it's confusing for me that.
But what should they have called it? I don't really know.
Don't know. I just think, and looking at the Slack conversation about this that was on the WordPress Slack, I think when Dan sort of suggested, why has it been named that? It seems very similar or something. They just came back and said, well, we've got like a naming convention for these meetups. And we've gone with the naming convention. And then you look at the list of meetups that they've currently got, and there's loads of them without the same naming convention. So does that apply? Does it not apply? It clearly doesn't apply. Seemed a bizarre explanation.
Yeah. I mean, part of me thinks bring on the competition. The current WordPress London meetup is huge in terms of like the number of members on meetup.com. Don't get me wrong, 3,200 people don't turn up every month by any means, but there's it's a established large group. It's kind of like a proven formula with a community that already exists. I don't think that's under threat. I really don't. If they're running events on the same night, then maybe. But even then, I don't think so. So yeah, I think for me, apart from the naming, and maybe the way that I haven't been privy to any of it. I haven't even seen the Slack conversation. But potentially the way it's kind of come about and being discussed, maybe that wasn't done with the most respect or consideration.
Yeah, it seems a little bizarre.
I don't know. And maybe that'll sour it for a lot of people, but it sounds like it's something a bit different. It's bringing WordPress people together. So from that point of view, I don't have a problem with it. But
no, I don't think anyone has a problem with it as a group. No. Like, we shouldn't stand in the way of any group that wants to start up. Just seems a strange decision to make that name so similar to the one that's currently being run, which is a little bit strange. But anyway, speaking of the one that is currently being run, I am actually speaking in September. So if you want to listen about our journey, I keep saying from projects to products, but projects haven't disappeared, have they? We've just kind of like scaled back slightly and then moved away to another direction. Anyway, so I'll be talking about that move, the good, the bad, the ugly, the awesomeness, and not what have you. So if you want to listen to that, it's the September meetup, which is the 26th of September. So yeah, that'll be good. Looking forward to seeing lots of people that we haven't seen for years and years.
We'll both be there. It'll be nice.
Yeah. Booked a train, booked a hotel. It's all sorted.
The first one I went back to, I mentioned it before, like a few months back, was a surreal experience. Like just walking into a room full of people that you know but you haven't seen in so long. Yeah. It was great.
Hopefully people that are listening, watching today might be going. I know some of you will, so it'd be nice to see you and say hello. So I haven't seen people for ages and ages.
Yeah. Very good.
Right, I think that does us today. We're wrapped up with our 3 topics. If so, then thank you very much for joining us as always. Leave us a like, do subscribe if you haven't done it, helps us out. Keith will be putting this on the podcast very shortly after this episode, so you'll be able to listen on your run, walk, commute, whatever you like. And we will hopefully, fingers crossed, see you next week, same time next week. I will have a quick check of the calendar and there's nothing in it, so we should be fine for next week.
We're good.
Hopefully you can join us. Anyway, bye for now.
See you next time. Bye.